Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another rendition of the All We Do Is Talk podcast. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, all this good stuff. Comment with us. We love the interaction. I'm here today with Moody and Isaiah. What's going on, fellas?
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing today? What's good, Eric?
Doing well. Today we're going over the AFC North, one of the deeper divisions in the league, I would say. Let's start it off with the falling Pittsburgh Steelers.
We'll see about that. All right, so we got the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Last year they were 12-4. Everyone knows they started off 11-0 before losing 4 out of 5, and then getting smacked up out of the playoffs. As we know, if the center snaps the ball over your head to start the game is over. No matter who's at quarterback, and that's what happened to Pittsburgh.
Usually a Hall of Fame one.
Usually a Hall of Fame one, whether it's Brady, whether it's Manning, and now Ben Roethlisberger. Last year, Pittsburgh, for the 4th consecutive year, finished top 5 in defense. They were first in defensive DVOA, first against the pass, 5th against the run. But we all know what the Pittsburgh issues were last year. It looked like the end times for Ben Roethlisberger. They were 22nd in offense, 21st in the passing game, but more surprisingly, 30th in rushing. They were just not good at running the football at all last year. So for their offseason additions, they added Melvin Ingram, the old edge from LA, who they let go because I guess they didn't want to pay him. He's going to go be a rotational edge guy for them.
He's been really banged up a lot.
Trey Turner, the offensive lineman from the Panthers, they recently traded for Joe Schobert from Jacksonville, I think. BJ Finney, Miles Killebrew, Killer Weatherspoon, as some rotational defensive guys to kind of help with their depth. Because the injuries last year kind of hurt their defense in a bad way. It really was the catalyst for their fall off last year. They lost Bud Dupree, who's coming off the torn ACL and is in Tennessee now. They cut Steven Nelson for cap reasons. That was surprising. He had a really, really quality season for them last year as their number 2. Alejandro Villanueva, their longtime starting left tackle, they lost. They lost Mike Hilton, their their slot corner, their nickel corner last year. Matt Byler, their starting right tackle, and they lost James Conner, who they let go because they drafted him right back in the first round. Overall, for their free agency, I gave them a B. They did lose some talent, but I thought they did a good job bringing guys in to help replace those things as well. I like Melvin Ingram to be a good. I think he'll have a good season across from TJ Watt because he won't be getting a whole lot of attention. Trey Turner is a solid starting NFL guard.
He's been terrible the last few years, but Pittsburgh gets the best out of players, so I can believe all that.
I like Joe Schobert a lot to come fill in that linebacker, especially with the Devin Bush. He's coming back from injury, so he'll be a nice intermediate fill-in, and then they can play him together in their 3-4. And then other guys don't really matter. But the biggest loss for them would probably be, in my opinion, is Steven Nelson. Although Bud Dupree does have some name value, but I always thought he was a little bit overrated, and he tore his ACL last year. So we're going to see how he bounces back from that. So I think they cut 2 starters in their secondary, and I think that's going to be the biggest key. Now, Pittsburgh's never really valued high talent at the cornerback position because they're going to do it with blitzing. They're going to do it with getting after the quarterback. So moving forward to the draft. In the first round, they took Najee Harris, 24th overall, which I think is a huge mistake. You should never be taking running backs in the first round. I don't care how talented. They took Pat Freiermuth.
I will say it took them on the second half. If you do it after pick 20, when the first round pick players are officially off the board, I can live with it more, but you shouldn't do it, really.
You shouldn't do it. Pat Freiermuth, they took the tight end from Penn State. I think he's got real high upside.
He's looked good.
He's looked good. Pittsburgh's probably going to do some 2 tight end stuff with him and Ebron. I think he can flex out. He can play inline too. Ebron is Ebron. Either he's going to catch the pass or he won't. You know he's a decent athlete.
And it's literally 50-50. Like, either he'll catch the pass or he won't. But he's always open, so you're going to throw it to him.
So, yeah, that's how it is. They took Kendrick Green in the 3rd, Dan Moore Jr. in the 4th. A guy with one of the best names in the draft, Isaiah Loudermilk, in the 5th.
What school did he go to?
I think he went to, it was a reg school. I can't remember exactly what it is. That sounds right, but I can't be sure. I have to look it up again. In the 6th, they took one of my favorite picks in the whole draft, Quincy Roche, who I thought was the 2nd best pass rusher in Miami last year. But Greg Rousseau has obviously looked pretty good in preseason so far. And in the 7th, they got a punter and Presley Harvin as well. Love taking specialists late in the draft to help the special teams overall. So overall, yeah, like I said, I gave their offseason and free agency a B. I gave their draft a C. Just Wisconsin. It was, I knew it was a red school. I gave their draft a C because I don't like taking a running back in the first round, but I do like the Firemouth pick. I did like the Quincy Roche pick a lot too. So as a team that had a lot of draft picks, they threw a lot of darts at a lot of different positions. And Pittsburgh is a team that's known to be really good at developing their own guys. So yeah, overall,
my only argument is I would have maybe a DB, maybe a pass rusher. But all the elite O linemen were missing. We're gone. Now, Landon Dickerson could have been a good pick.
Yeah, he's coming off the injury, so you always have to worry about that as well.
Yeah, I wonder if they were looking at Darrisaw, who went with the pick right.
Pittsburgh seems to have decided that their run game could best be fixed by a running back.
But I predicted that pick. So it was always
everyone seems like that. People seem to be written in stone from the moment Pittsburgh got to find out their draft positioning. They're going to try to fix their run game with the talented running back instead of rebuilding the offensive line. We'll see how that goes.
People say the Giants offensive line, that Pittsburgh offensive line is not.
It's not great.
It's probably It's probably the worst offensive line.
I think Dotson is a starting replacement level guard. I like Trey Turner as another solid guard.
They had a breakout guy there on the line at tackle that I can't recall, but he's like the only guy that you know.
So Pittsburgh, it's going to be about. They're going to win games with their defense. Hopefully, Ben Roethlisberger and getting the ball out quick and stuff like that can help overcome the poor offensive line play. But you're right. If they're going to have an Achilles heel this year, it's going to be on the OL.
And how do we feel about Mr. Corvette? They did bring him back.
Corvette.
Juju.
Oh,
Juju's back to do more dances.
I mean, obviously, Pittsburgh is their deepest position, their best position, their deepest position on their roster is the receiving core. We love Claypool, obviously. Deontay Johnson's really good. I think they got rid of James Washington, but I do like.
He stayed. He had to stick around.
He had to stick around, so James Washington's still around. I think every receiver on their roster is a guy who can make plays for them.
I would have let Juju go to go get some other type of piece, which is weird.
I mean, he came back for cheap. 1 year, $8 million for a guy
that could be another lineman.
Get you 100 catches. They clearly didn't value that. Their value was that keeping Juju.
They just wanted to keep him away from Baltimore.
Probably.
Anything else to bring up about Pittsburgh, Eric?
I mean, I like the Melvin Ingram pickup. I think he's used to having another dominant guy on the end with being with the Chargers and Joey Bosa. So, and if he can stay healthy, I think that's going to be a big plus for them with him only getting $4 million.
And then I love their guy Alex Highsmith. I think he's a second-year guy. He's going to be paired around. He's going to be the starter for this while Melvin Ingram kind of gets his legs underneath him because he really wasn't around that much throughout the offseason. So I think we'll just do it like this. The Pittsburgh FanDuel win total 8.5. What do we think?
I already took the under.
Under. I took the over. I was looking at their schedule this year. It's not really super difficult. Their defense is still going to be top 3, top 2 in the league. I think that's going to be more. And Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in his entire career. And I don't expect with an extra game that it'll happen.
This is the year that it turns on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin, be careful because one bad season, it could cost you your job. Even though Mike Tomlin is one of those guys that's stuck in he's overrated sometimes, he's underrated sometimes because I don't know what he coordinates. He used to be a defensive coordinator.
I mean, we know he was a DB guy. He's a
leadership coach.
Yeah, he's a motivation, keep guys in check type of guy, which works for Pittsburgh. That's what Pittsburgh's done the last.
Like when he kept Antonio Brown in check. Like when he kept Odell in check.
He did keep those guys in check because look what happened when those guys left the building. They were menaces. So imagine what we don't know what they were doing in that Pittsburgh locker room. Like look at that locker room with Ben Roethlisberger and Jake. Like come on, bro. He's kept some personalities in check. But overall, I think I'm predicting Pittsburgh to go 11-6 this year.
They might win 8 games, but losing season.
That would actually be a regression for them since they won 12 games last year.
The division is just so tough.
It is tough.
Absolutely. So on to Baltimore, Eric.
On to Baltimore. With their free agencies, they definitely addressed the offensive line. They signed Alejandro Villanueva away from Pittsburgh. They signed Kevin Zeitler from the Giants. Zeitler. As well as Juwan James. I think they definitely are trying to address it.
Juwan James isn't going to play this year.
That's like a sneaky thing. He's like hurt, but they signed him even though you're not usually supposed to sign players who get cut because they're hurt.
He's not going to play this year, but that's a future hopeful right tackle for them.
Yeah. So I like those picks. They also they re-signed Tyus Bowser, and they also brought in Sammy Watkins, but wide receivers are really marginalized in Baltimore. So I don't know how much production you'll get out of him, as well as they also have Marquis Brown, who's already their deep threat. They also signed Justin Houston to a one-year deal. He's on his last leg, but who knows? He could still have some remaining juice.
He's still been a really quality pass rusher. That's just all he is now. Third down, nickel guy. Come and get after the quarterback.
Yeah, that's about all they've done in free agency. Onto their draft.
They don't like to mess up the comp pick formula, so they only ever sign players who get cut, which is weird that Pittsburgh and them do that because
I mean, a lot of teams, the Cowboys do that, Patriots are like that too. Just teams really, really value those comp picks.
Picks aren't players.
Picks aren't players.
Onto the draft. They picked Rashad Bateman in the first round, another wide receiver, but
he's hurt right now. He'll miss the first couple games of the season.
Again, wide receivers with Baltimore, they're not really a premium.
I guess, but I will say I think they're trying to change that by going to get receivers that aren't Willie Snead level receivers. Because with Bateman and Watkins and Marquis Brown, that looks like a decent
NFL
receiving
core, especially with Mark Andrews in the middle. Yeah.
They're trying. It was the next step.
Another person, I did not like this pick in the 5th round. They got Shaun Wade, cornerback from Ohio State. I saw him get.
He's not even on the team anymore, Eric.
He got cut.
They actually traded him for 2 picks.
He's in New England now.
They traded him for 2 picks, a 5th and a 6th. So they got 2 picks out of him. So I liked him. And
I like Shaun Wade too.
Baltimore liked him, and New England likes him. So he looked terrible. And
he can't play the outside. We know that. But he was outstanding in the slot. And the slot is one of the most important positions in the NFL nowadays.
Bill will know what to do with him.
Yeah, so if Bill has him, I actually kind of like him. Another like sleeper, I think, obviously, like I've seen this guy play a lot in college, was Dylan Hayes. I like him a lot off the edge. Big athletic
They're
guy.
good at drafting edge guys.
Yeah, big athletic. I liked him a lot when he was at Notre Dame. Who else we got? They actually drafted another wide receiver, Tylan Wallace, out of Oklahoma State.
Yeah, he was a guy who fell really, really hard when it got from what his before his last season in college. He was the guy who was looked at as like a day 2, maybe late day 1 type of draft pick, and he kind of just fell off the face of the earth. But he's got really good potential.
I heard some off the field things.
Off the field will always get you. Baltimore never really cares about that.
But yeah, so like for their off season, I'd give them for their free agency, I'd probably give them I'll go B. I like the additions on the offensive line that they had. In the draft, I would probably give them I'd give them a C. I mean, I like the Rashad Bateman pick, but these other picks, I mean, I just don't know. They drafted a fullback in a league that's going away from the fullback. I think that's just a waste of pick. They tried to address the secondary a little bit more. They didn't in the league draft, they didn't respond to losing Earl Thomas, which I would have thought they would have done in their first 2 picks, which they didn't. So yeah, a C for Baltimore in the draft. What do you think?
I like the pick of Rashad Bateman. He screams Baltimore Ravens type of player. Other than that, they didn't. Jason Owe from Penn State. He's really raw, but I like the potential he has. Who else did they get in the day 2?
Ben Cleveland.
I like Shaun Wade for them. Huh?
They got Ben.
I like Shaun Wade for them. I'm surprised they got rid of him already. But they were deep there. And who else?
Ben Cleveland, guard out of Georgia.
Yeah. SEC lineman who's got some pedigree. I mean, I can mess with it. Baltimore's a really good drafting team. They've been a lot more hit than miss recently. I mean, miss than hit. But they do it. Usually the best of drafters are going to hit 50-50, and they keep a consistent basis. Like when they hit, they hit. When they miss, they miss. They don't ever get the awkward in between of having to overpay a guy because you developed him into above average, barely above average player. Anything else you want to bring up for Baltimore?
No, No, that's about it.
Their over-under is 11 wins. How you feel about that?
That's a lot. It's straight 11. It's not 11 and a half.
Straight 11.
I'll go under. I think they're gonna. With the extra game, I think 11 is like right where they're gonna be. So I'll go over. I'll go over for this.
Let me make sure. Yeah, it's 11 straight. It was just awkward because if it was 11 and a half, or that could give you that easier spread. But I think they'll win 11 or 12 games, so I'll hit the over because I can see the extra game might be good for them. And I think the NFC North has a pretty light schedule this year, so I'll hit the over for Baltimore. And now we can move on to Cleveland, who I am very high on the Cleveland Browns. I think they had a great offseason. They've strung together a few good off seasons in a row, and hopefully this is the year they get over the hump. But they lost Kevin Johnson and Carl Joseph in the secondary, but they had a pretty terrible secondary last year, so it's good that they went and got some more pieces in there. They signed Josh Johnson from the LA Rams for a 3-year, $34 million contract to be the leader of their safety. He fits that scheme really well, so it's good. That's going to be a good signing for sure. He'll bring veteran leadership to that secondary. They also went and got Troy Hill from the Rams, slot cornerback. 2 years, $9 million, really good value for a slot corner. So now you have Greedy Williams, you got Denzel Ward, you got Troy Hill, you got the guy that we're going to talk about later that they drafted in the first round, Greg Newsome, and then you got Josh Johnson leading the way. They'll probably take one of those corners. I can see Greedy Williams, and they still got Grant Delpit, but I can see Greedy Williams becoming a safety. I can also see Greg Newsome being a safety if they don't work out a corner. They went and got Jadeveon Clowney. His career's tailed off, but I've always been high on Jadeveon Clowney. Him next to Myles Garrett, if they stay healthy, that could be scary. But Clowney's injuries are also scary. So that's a TBD for sure. They went and got former first-round bust from the same draft class we were talking about recently in our last video, Charles Harris. They went and got his draft bust mate, Todd McKinley, whose career just didn't work out. 1 year, $4 million prove-it deal. We'll see what we can get. He will be like a rotational rusher, which he's good pass rusher. He wasn't a good every down player, so we'll see what they get out of him. When they got Malik Jackson, aged out as well, but a nice little 1 year, $4 million stopgap deal because they need some help in the middle of their defense, especially against playing Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and who are going to want to run the ball. Even Cincinnati with Joe Mixon, that'll be a big deal. They kept Rashard Higgins on a 1 year prove-it deal. I think he's an underrated player. But with Donovan Peoples-Jones, Odell Beckham, and Jarvis Landry, I think if Odell has another bad year or another injury-prone year, they'll push him out the door. And I think Rashard Higgins has really good chemistry with Baker Mayfield. And they re-signed Cody Parkey, who I believe is hurt, but it's Cody Parkey, so I'm sorry. That's bad. That's a negative. And they also got Malcolm Smith. They also went and got Malcolm Smith, former Super Bowl MVP, because they need some depth in linebacker because their linebackers are not that good. So I give their free agency, give it an A.
Oh, yeah.
Johnson, Troy Hill, Clowney, tack, depth and value, and high upside players who are still young. As for their draft, another solid draft from Cleveland. They've been done some good drafting recently. I wasn't very high on Greg Newsome, but I did believe he was a first round. Let me just check again.
He was first round.
He was a first round. In my opinion, I thought Asante Samuel Jr. was a better cornerback than him, so I might have went with him. But I did like Newsome's value in the first round, especially in the late first round. We'll see what they do with him. They have a type. They like a smaller frame type of cornerback who's got length but not as big as muscular. So we'll see if they can get some muscles on Ward and Greedy Williams and Greg Newsome to make him more physical. They also got probably, in my opinion, Azeez Ojulari was the steal of the draft, but the pick right after in Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is just as good of a contender for that. To get him at 52, might have had a heart problem, might have some positional, like you don't know if he's a safety or linebacker. I think he's a will linebacker, and he'll fit perfectly in that cover 4, cover 2, two high safety, heavy zone coverage type of defense. And he was a freak athlete, can do it all. I want to see. They have him listed as a linebacker. I wonder what they'll do with him. Other picks that I liked from them, really, their first two picks were really good. So I like Anthony Schwartz from Auburn. I mean, we saw Darius Slayton come onto the scene from the New York Giants. I think Anthony Schwartz is a good receiver from Auburn. We'll see if they develop him. They need like, just in case, they need a break glass in case of emergency for Odell Beckham Jr. not turning out to be what they thought he would be. So a couple of shots with Peoples-Jones, Rashard Higgins. They got guys there. And I like James Hudson from the offensive tackle for Cincinnati. That's a really good pick. And other late day picks, Reggie LeCounte from Georgia. I've watched him a couple times live, and he used to fly. He used to fly out. He used to highlight when you jump off the tape when you watch him on film and on TV. So I think that could be a nice day 3 steal. And they've gone, like last year, they got Donovan Peoples-Jones in the 7th. They've been getting some nice day 3 steals recently. But I'd give their draft a B. With the B, I'll give it a B because they did some good things. But I think it really gonna hinge on how good Greg Newsome is, because I think JOK is gonna be a good player. You could speak more about how good of a player he was for Notre Dame, but I think he'll be a good player for them. It's really just how good they can make Greg Newsome in their system.
Yeah, I'm really high on Cleveland, just like you. Where the Browns drafted JOK was the Panthers traded out of that pick, and I really wanted them to take him. And I knew as soon as the Browns traded up, they were going to take him. Athlete, he was a clear linebacker in college. I think he might have some positional problems in finding a home in the NFL because he's kind of like that tweener size of linebacker safety type deal. But he can make plays. Doesn't miss a lot of tackles. He got it done for Notre Dame. I think the Johnson pickup for them was huge. And they really addressed the secondary. Obviously, you're doing a waiver on Jadeveon Clowney. He doesn't get the sack numbers you want, but his pressures are one of the tops in the league. And that's really what you're looking for, is to have his presence felt, that the quarterback knows he's there. And I think it's going to be a great year for Cleveland. I think they're going to be very successful.
I'm trying to pull up their over-under right now.
Over.
Cleveland Browns they're at 10.5.
Over.
And I took the over because I think they'll win the division. So I think they'll be a 12 to 13 win team.
Yeah.
Via the extra game.
Oh yeah.
Tough division still. I think they're better than Baltimore, but we'll save division rankings after we go over the last team on the list. We've got the Cincinnati Bengals making a return comeback season for Mr. Joe Burrow. I like their offseason, but it's very risky what they did this offseason. I can still see that. So let's start with free agency. They lost Carl Lawson. Now in the future, we know the injury problems were real, and he's gotten another injury. So that's tough, but I thought that was a good pass rusher that they let walk out the door. Even tougher is that they let William Jackson, a good corner, out the door. He's going to be great for Washington football team. And as a divisional rival, it sucks that the Cincy let Washington football team get their hands on him. AJ Green's tenure there is over. He won it out. He might be done, but we'll see what he does. Former first-round bust and fastest 40-yard dash time runner, John Ross, is also out the door. He's moved his own to New York. We'll see what he can bring. He's always hurt, still is hurt. So it sucks that he just didn't work out. Giovanni Bernard, a stalwart there, third down back. That's going to be tough because luckily Joe Mixon is do it all, but having a nice little spell, third down scat back, is always nice. Bobby Hart's a complete trash can. Letting him go is a no-loss situation. And Christian Covington's a good interior defensive edge. Defense, and Christian Covington is a good defensive interior player, so that's tough that they lost him. But in free agency, they brought in Trey Hendrickson, who had that monster season. I think he led the league in sacks, or he was second as a rotational guy on a deep pass rushing unit. So that leaves a lot to be seen. To give him 4 years, $60 million. Mike Hilton, slot cornerback for Pittsburgh Steelers. That's a really good player to get in your slot. They need some cornerback help, and they got him for $8 million a year, 4 for 24. That's pretty good. Chidobe Awuzie, that's good value. $33 million, 3 years, $22 million. he's a good number 2 corner, so we'll see what they do with him. I wonder if he'll fit their scheme really well, but that remains to be seen. They went and got 2 corners. They needed corners, so at least they got 2 corners in after losing William Jackson. And then they brought in Riley Reef to be a stopgap tackle. He's above average, maybe, but he's had a pretty disappointing career. I gave their free agency a B- because I would have preferred them to keep Carl Lawson and William Jackson because they knew they knew the system. But maybe they didn't want to keep them, or maybe those players didn't want to be there. You never know. Cincinnati's a weird place like that. Players leave all the time. On to their draft. I was a Giant fan, and I agreed that they should have took Jamar Chase because of his prior experience with playing with Joe Burrow. He had a terrible preseason, and a drop problem came around. And I will say that looks scary because they passed up on a couple good tackles. I really like Rashad Slater, and they needed a tackle. So we'll see if Jamar Chase, let's not forget he was an opt-out. So let's see if he needs to just get back into it of taking hits and stuff after a year off. Jackson Carman is the offensive tackle they chose to go with from Clemson. Boom or bust. They're going boom or bust. They went risky first. They passed up on an O-line who might have been more safe in the first to go boom and bust in the second. That's risky, so that leaves a lot to be seen. Joseph Asai on the edge from Texas, boom or bust, risky. But Cincinnati is always going with these boom or bust players, and they're really good at drafting and developing, in my opinion, except for some of their infamous first-round busts. But their late guys sometimes work out. Carmen Sample from Tulane, a good player. I think he's less boom or bust, more of a, you know what you're going to get from him, and he has room to grow. And then the other day, 3 picks that I like, they drafted a kicker, which I'm never a fan of drafting special teams players or fullbacks in the draft, but if he works out, he works out. I think they did lose their prior kicker. And that's about it for their offseason. Their draft, I give their draft a B because it all hinges on how good Jamar Chase becomes. I thought he was the best receiver in the draft, but receivers bust all the time. And yeah. I thought Rashad Slater was the best offensive tackle in the draft. And he's looked really good in the preseason at left tackle. So we'll see. How you feel about some of the stuff Cincinnati did?
I think this is definitely an important year for the Bengals to show growth with Joe Burrow. I agree with you. I think Jamar Chase was the correct draft pick for them because you don't have to build that chemistry up. They already have it. I think he will do well, hopefully, for my fantasy sake. He will do well. I think he's explosive. I think the drops are just him getting back into football since he hasn't played in so long, since he was one of those opt-out players. But, yeah, I mean, I think this whole year, obviously they're not going to be contending for the division this year with 3 teams that are superior to them. But, yeah, just seeing growth from them and seeing what Joe Burrow can truly do. Hopefully he comes back healthy and better than ever. I guess that's one thing you can say against the Jamar Chase pick is that you need to protect your quarterback before he can even get it to the receiver. But, you know, you don't know who's going to bust and who's going to boom. So, I mean, I just think it's going to be watch and find out for the Bengals to see where they can go from here.
Definitely, I agree. They took a lot of risk. Let's hopefully they pay off because I'm a fan of Joe Burrow, so I hope he can come back from the injury. That's gonna be tough. That's a tough injury to suffer right away.
Will he be back?
But yeah, I mean, he played in a preseason game. Only played 3 snaps, and like they took him out even though they had like another series of downs to play. So that should be interesting to see how they go from there. But let me pull up the over/under for Cincinnati. So the Cincinnati Bengals over/under is 6.5 games.
I'm going under because of this half. I think they're a 5-6 win team. I think they're in a brutal division. I don't know what their out of division schedule is looking like, but that division's a gauntlet for them. So I think they're going under.
Yeah, I believe that this bet keeps running away from me. I believe I'm going to also take the under because, like you said, that division is hellacious. Actually, I bet the over. I bet the over. I don't know what I was thinking when I did that, but I bet the over because I will tie into this. If Pittsburgh falls off and it gets bad, Cincinnati's the team that benefits from that. And if Joe Burrow stays healthy, having a good quarterback with better weapons, they have really good weapons if Joe Mixon stays healthy and the receivers stay healthy. So I bet the over. Definitely, I think they're probably a 6-win team, but I don't really believe in Pittsburgh, so I took the over. But they're probably only hit it at best by being a 7-win team that plays spoiler all year long. So let me hit you with my division rankings, in my opinion, how they're going to finish. Cleveland at 1, Baltimore right behind, maybe just one game, maybe even just a tiebreaker. They might win the same amount of games. Baltimore 2, both to get into the playoffs, in my opinion. Pittsburgh at 3, Cincinnati at 4. Pittsburgh will be closer to Cincinnati than they will be to Baltimore and Cleveland, in my opinion. How you feeling about your rankings?
I feel the exact same way. I don't think there's any way the Steelers get back into the playoffs. I think they're the clear third best team in this division. I'm going Cleveland, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati as well. I think Baltimore and Cleveland are interchangeable there, but I think this is going to be a bust-out year for Cleveland. I think there's 2 clear best teams in this division, and then Pittsburgh can do it, and then Cincinnati is just a let's see what we have type year.
All right, anything else?
No?
All right, y'all already know the deal. Like, subscribe, follow us on socials, interact, give us your list on how you feel the NFC North is going to be this year. All right, Eric, take it easy.
See you, my man.